The crystal glass trembled before her words even landed. Every table froze, forks suspended, whispers dying mid-air. Under the golden lights of the city's most exclusive restaurant, a millionaire CEO sat with a contract in hand, and the waitress he'd just humiliated was no longer afraid. She leaned closer, her voice calm but sharp as truth. The man in the blue suit blinked, his confidence cracking for the first time in years. That one sentence she whispered would strip him of more than power. It would expose the part of him money could never touch, and as the room held its breath, no one realized, that moment would soon be seen by millions. Before we begin this emotional story, tell us in the comments from which city you are watching, and don't forget to leave your like to keep following us. The clink of crystal and the low murmur of money filled the restaurant that night. The chandeliers shimmered like liquid gold above the tables, and laughter spilled from men in tailored suits who never looked down, except to check the price of a bottle. At table 7, the most expensive corner in the room, sat Ethan Carter, a millionaire CEO whose smile could slice glass. His cufflinks caught the light each time he lifted his glass, as if even his movements demanded applause. Across from him, a young executive tried to keep up with Ethan's polished arrogance. The waitress, her name tag said Lena, stood quietly holding a tray she could barely afford to drop. Her hands trembled slightly, though not from fear, from the exhaustion of double shifts and the weight of bills she could never quite bury. She smiled professionally, but Ethan barely noticed. To him, she was just part of the decor, another piece of service to be commanded. "Excuse me," he said, not looking up. "I asked for Chateau Margaux, not whatever this cheap stand-in is." He pushed the glass aside with a flick of his wrist. The liquid sloshed over the rim, dripping onto the white tablecloth, onto her hand. "I'm sorry, sir," Lena said softly, grabbing a napkin. "Sorry doesn't uncork a $3,000 bottle," he sneered. "Do you even know what Margaux tastes like?" For a moment she froze. Her eyes flickered with something that didn't belong in a place like this. Dignity. Controlled. Quiet dignity. The kind that survives humiliation, because it knows more than the person inflicting it. She set the napkin down gently, straightened her back and replied, "No, sir, but I know what respect tastes like, and it's priceless." The nearby tables went silent. The young executive's jaw fell open, caught between admiration and fear. Ethan looked up for the first time, truly seeing her. His arrogance faltered for half a heartbeat, then twisted into a smirk. "Careful," he said, voice low. "People who talk like that usually end up losing their jobs." Lena nodded once, her expression unreadable. "And people who talk like you," she said quietly, "end up losing something they can't buy back." The air tightened around them. For the first time all evening, Ethan had no clever retort. Her words had landed somewhere he didn't expect, behind the armor of money and control. She turned and walked away, her back straight, the silver tray tucked under her arm like a shield. Ethan watched her go, the echo of her sentence sticking to him like the taste of something he couldn't swallow. Behind her, whispers began to spread between tables. The king of the room had just been challenged by a waitress, and she hadn't blinked. Ethan couldn't sleep that night. The waitress's words replayed in his mind like a broken melody. "People who talk like you end up losing something they can't buy back." He'd heard countless insults in boardrooms, courtrooms, and business deals, but none had stuck the way hers did. It wasn't the tone. She hadn't shouted or cried. It was the calmness, the certainty. The next morning, his penthouse windows framed the skyline of New York, cold and glittering. He sipped black coffee, scrolled through emails, and tried to bury the memory under contracts and profit reports. But every reflection, on the marble counter, the elevator door, the glass walls of his office, seemed to throw her face back at him, the waitress with the steady eyes. By noon, he had a meeting with his PR director. "Ethan," she said cautiously, "there's something you need to see." She slid her tablet across the table. A viral video played, grainy but unmistakable, him snapping at Lena, her calm reply, the silence that followed. Over 1 million views in less than 12 hours. The caption read, "Millionaire CEO humiliated a waitress," but what she said next silenced the room. Ethan's throat tightened. "Who recorded this?" he demanded. "Everyone, apparently," she replied. "And it's everywhere, Twitter, TikTok, even the news blogs. People are calling her a symbol of dignity. You, not so much." He leaned back, disbelief clouding his face. For the first time in years, the power had shifted, and not in his favor. "Get legal on this," he snapped. "Have it taken down." She hesitated. "Ethan, it's not that simple. The story's bigger than the video now." Across town, Lena was unaware of the chaos she'd ignited. She was at the community center, folding donated clothes into neat stacks. Her phone buzzed non-stop with notifications, messages from strangers calling her brave, graceful, powerful. But all she felt was confusion. She hadn't meant to start anything. She'd just told the truth. A soft voice interrupted her thoughts. "Miss, are you the lady from that video?" It was a little girl, maybe 10, holding her mother's hand. "You made the mean man stop being mean." Lena smiled, kneeling beside her. "Sometimes people forget how to listen," she said gently. "But kindness has a way of reminding them." Back in his office, Ethan stared out over the city he once controlled, his reflection fractured by the window pane. For the first time, the silence of power didn't comfort him. It suffocated him. Somewhere deep inside, he wondered if the waitress was right. Maybe he had lost something money couldn't buy back. That thought haunted him as the city lights began to blur and fade, and the sound of his own breathing became the only thing left to answer him. By the third day, the story had become a storm. Talk shows debated it. Hashtags multiplied. Reporters camped outside Ethan Carter's company headquarters, their microphones like spears aimed at the fortress of his image. Words like arrogant, entitled, and heartless filled the comment sections that once worshipped him. Inside his office, Ethan sat with his attorney, his jaw tight as granite. "We'll sue for defamation," he insisted. "That video was taken out of context." His lawyer adjusted his glasses. "Ethan, you're a public figure, and it wasn't exactly flattering context to begin with." Ethan's patience cracked. "I built this company from nothing. I don't answer to social media mobs." The lawyer exhaled. "Then maybe you should answer to your investors. 3 just pulled out of the Carter merger this morning. They don't like scandals that smell of ego." The words landed like blows. Ethan's power had always been armor, not a costume, and now it was peeling away. He rose abruptly, pushing past the lawyer, and left the building without a word. Outside, flashbulbs exploded. Voices shouted his name, asking if he'd apologized, if he planned to step down, if he regretted humiliating the waitress. He didn't answer. He couldn't. Meanwhile, Lena's world had changed in quieter, stranger ways. Her boss at the restaurant tried to handle the media requests politely, but the dining room had turned into a pilgrimage site. People came just to meet her, to shake her hand, to take a picture. It made her uneasy. "I don't want attention," she told her co-worker. "I just want peace." But peace was the last thing the world would give her. A producer from a national talk show called. A publishing agent sent an offer for a memoir. And then one morning an envelope appeared under her apartment door. No return address. Inside was a single sheet of paper. "Miss Lena Hart. You spoke with honesty when I didn't deserve it. I'd like to meet you again, if only to say what I should have said that night." Ethan Carter. She sat on the edge of her small couch, staring at the note. Her first instinct was to tear it in half, but something in the handwriting, firm yet uncertain, made her pause. She didn't owe him forgiveness, yet curiosity, that fragile thread between pain and empathy, began to tug at her heart. The next evening, under the soft hum of the restaurant's lights, she walked past the table where it all began. It sat empty now, waiting like a stage where something unfinished was meant to be said. And at that exact moment, across the city, Ethan stood by his window again, pen in hand, pride in ruins, wondering if a man who'd built empires could ever rebuild his own soul. Rain swept over Manhattan that night, turning the streets into mirrors of trembling light. Ethan sat alone in his black sedan outside the restaurant where everything had begun. The same chandeliers glowed through the window, soft and golden, like a memory refusing to fade. He hesitated before stepping out, his reflection on the car window fractured, half man, half ghost. Inside, Lena was finishing her shift, her hair pulled back, her uniform damp from the rain that had followed her in. When the maitre d' approached with an awkward smile and said, There's someone here to see you." Her stomach tightened. Ethan stood at the entrance without his usual armor of confidence. No tailored arrogance, no entourage, no flash. Just a dark coat and tired eyes. He removed his hat as she approached. "Miss Hart," he began quietly, "thank you for agreeing to see me." "I didn't agree," she said, folding her arms. "You just showed up." He nodded, accepting the blow. "Then maybe... I just hoped you wouldn't walk away again." The restaurant hummed faintly behind them, the clink of cutlery, the murmur of conversations unaware of the strange symmetry unfolding near the door. Lena studied him carefully. He looked older, somehow, like a man stripped of all the noise he'd once mistaken for success. "I came to apologize," he said finally, voice low but steady. "Not because of the internet, not for my company. For me. That night I saw a person who deserved respect, and I treated you like air. I don't expect forgiveness, but I need you to know that your words, they didn't just embarrass me. They woke me up." Lena's expression softened slightly, though her tone remained even. "And what exactly did you wake up to, Mr. Carter?" He exhaled, glancing down at his hands. "That I've been running an empire of mirrors. Everything looks perfect from the outside, but inside, there's nothing real left." Her silence stretched between them like a bridge suspended over something fragile. Finally, she said, "Maybe that's why people like you look down on people like me. Because we still have something real." He looked up, meeting her eyes. "You're right," he said quietly. "And I don't know how to get that back." Lena took a slow breath. "You don't get it back by apologizing to me," she said. "You get it back by changing what you do next." For a moment, neither moved. The rain outside whispered against the glass, carrying the sound of a city that never stopped pretending. Ethan nodded once, almost like a bow, then turned toward the door. "Miss Hart," he said before leaving, "if you ever decide to start something, anything on your own, I'd like to help. No contracts, no cameras, just help." And with that, he stepped back into the rain, leaving a silence behind him that felt almost sacred. Lena stood watching him disappear into the night, her reflection shimmering in the window beside his fading shadow. Two lives that had collided, each now carrying a piece of the other's truth. A week passed, then two. The internet storm slowly quieted, moving on to its next outrage. But in that silence, something unexpected began to grow. Ethan, stripped of his spotless public image, started visiting places he had once ignored. Homeless shelters, community kitchens, small schools with fading paint and broken heaters. At first, he came like a stranger observing a foreign world. Later, he came as a man searching for forgiveness in the faces of those he'd never seen before. The first time he saw Lena again, it wasn't at the restaurant. It was in a cramped gym turned into a donation center. She was there sorting canned goods with her sleeves rolled up, surrounded by laughter and the quiet chaos of volunteers. She looked up, surprised to find him standing near the door, holding a box of supplies. "You again," she said, wiping her hands on her jeans. He smiled faintly. "You said I should change what I do next, so I'm starting here." Lena hesitated. There was no arrogance in his tone this time, no trace of the man who once measured worth by the label on a wine bottle. He looked tired but lighter somehow. "You really think a few charity boxes will fix what's broken?" she asked. "No," he admitted, "but maybe it's a start." They worked side by side that day, mostly in silence. Ethan struggled with the rhythm of real work, lifting crates, taping boxes, wiping sweat, but every movement stripped another layer of his old life away. Lena caught him laughing once, unguarded and genuine, when a group of kids started teasing him about his terrible handwriting on the donation labels. When the day ended, she offered him a cup of instant coffee, the kind served in styrofoam cups that softened at the edges. "Not exactly Chateau Margaux," she teased. He chuckled. "It tastes better than anything I've had in years." As the volunteers left, the gym grew quiet. Lena leaned against a table, her eyes fixed on him. "So what's your plan, Ethan? Redemption tour?" He looked down at the cup in his hands. "I don't have a plan anymore. I just want to learn how to be someone my father would have been proud of. Someone I can live with when the noise is gone." Lena studied him, seeing the faint tremor in his voice. The kind that doesn't come from weakness but from truth finally finding its way out. "Then maybe," she said softly, "you're finally listening." Outside, the evening light poured through the gym windows like a promise. Warm, hesitant, but real. And for the first time since that night, Lena didn't feel anger when she looked at Ethan Carter. She felt something quieter, something like hope. Weeks turned into months. The snow came early that year, wrapping New York in white silence. For Ethan, it was the first winter in a long time that didn't feel like a race. He still owned Carter Tech, but the company looked different now. So did he. He'd sold his penthouse, moved into a smaller place in Brooklyn, and restructured his business around community projects and fair wage initiatives. The media called it a rebranding. Ethan knew better. It was survival. He spent most evenings at the community center with Lena, helping her manage the growing donations that poured in after her story went viral. Together, they'd turned that small gym into something bigger, a shelter, a soup kitchen, and a place where forgotten people found warmth. They never called it a partnership, but that's what it was. One late afternoon, as the snow fell in slow spirals outside, Ethan stood beside Lena while she read through a proposal. "You want to turn the old warehouse on 15th into housing?" he asked. She nodded. "Families come in every night asking for somewhere safe to sleep. We can't keep sending them away." He studied her face for a moment. She spoke with the same calm strength she'd had the night she stood up to him, but now it was laced with something softer, steadier, purpose. "I'll fund it," he said simply. Lena looked up sharply. "No. If this place depends on your money, it stops belonging to the people it's for." He smiled faintly. "You never let me play the hero, do you?" "Heroes don't sign checks," she replied. "They show up." Her words struck deeper than she intended. Ethan fell quiet, watching her move between volunteers, her sleeves rolled up, her laughter echoing through the room. For the first time, he realized that he didn't want to save her world. He wanted to belong in it. That night, after everyone left, Lena stayed behind to finish sorting coats. She found Ethan asleep on a folding chair, a stack of financial reports resting on his chest. The sight made her smile, gentle, unplanned. She draped a blanket over him and whispered, "Maybe you really are changing." He stirred but didn't wake. Outside, the snow kept falling, soft, endless, like the quiet forgiveness the city had never known how to give. But not everyone was happy about Ethan's transformation. The next morning, as he arrived at his office, his assistant handed him a folder. Inside were anonymous messages, threats, leaks, accusations. His board was planning a vote. "They think you've gone soft," she whispered. "They want you out." Ethan's pulse tightened. Just when he'd started to rebuild, the empire he once ruled was ready to eat him alive. The boardroom was colder than usual, the kind of cold that didn't come from air conditioning but from people who had already made up their minds. The long glass table reflected Ethan's face back at him, calm on the surface, chaos underneath. 12 directors sat around him, their expressions polished, rehearsed. "Ethan," said Richard Voss, the oldest and most calculating of them, "you've done extraordinary things for this company, but lately your priorities seem misplaced." Ethan leaned back, unblinking. "You mean I stopped pretending profit was the only measure of success?" Richard gave a tight smile. "We mean your actions have cost us investors. The company exists to make money, not morals." A silence stretched, broken only by the faint hum of the city outside. Ethan's gaze drifted to the skyline through the floor-to-ceiling windows. He used to see opportunity out there. Now he saw ghosts of the people his success had trampled. "So that's it," he said. "You're voting me out?" "It's already done," Richard replied. "We're offering you a graceful exit. Your shares stay intact, your legacy remains mostly untarnished." Ethan rose slowly. For years, he had fought for control over everything. His company, his image, his destiny. And now the one thing he thought defined him was slipping through his hands. But strangely, he didn't feel fear. He felt release. "Take it," he said quietly. "All of it." The board members exchanged stunned looks. "You're resigning." "I'm letting go," he corrected. "There's a difference." He walked out of the building without a backward glance, past the polished lobby, past the plaque with his name engraved in gold. Outside, the afternoon light struck his face, and for the first time in years, he felt the air without a filter of power or pride. When he reached the community center that evening, Lena was already there, unpacking food deliveries. She noticed the faint exhaustion in his eyes. "Rough day?" "You could say that," he replied, setting down a box. "I'm unemployed now." She looked up, surprised but didn't speak. "I gave it up," he continued. "Carter Tech, the title, the board, everything." Lena studied him, her voice barely above a whisper. "Why?" "Because I was never supposed to own it," he said. "It owned me." For a long moment, she said nothing. Then she stepped closer, resting her hand briefly on his arm, a quiet gesture of understanding, not pity. "You did the hardest thing a man like you can do," she said softly. "You stopped pretending." He met her gaze, and something unspoken passed between them, a truth that didn't need applause. Outside, the last light of day washed through the windows, touching both of them in gold. But the world wasn't finished testing them, because the next morning, a headline appeared across every major outlet. "Disgraced CEO donates millions to charity, but sources reveal dark motives." And once again, the storm began to rise. The news spread like wildfire, twisting every act of kindness into a weapon. Talk shows sneered, tabloids screamed. "Redemption stunt," one headline read. "Former millionaire CEO trying to clean his image through the poor." Lena saw it first on her phone while pouring coffee for volunteers. Her stomach dropped. The photo showed Ethan standing outside the community center, smiling faintly, handing food to a child. The caption beneath it made it look like a PR move, a staged moment. The same media that had once worshipped him now mocked him with surgical precision. When Ethan arrived later that morning, she could see the weight of it in his shoulders. He carried no phone, no assistant, no defense. "Don't read it," he said softly, setting down a box of supplies. "I already did," she replied, "and so did everyone else." He nodded, eyes distant. "They can say what they want. I've made my peace." "Have you?" she asked, searching his face. "Because it doesn't look like peace to me." He leaned against the counter, rubbing his temples. "You told me to change what I do next, I did. But maybe people like me aren't allowed to change. Maybe they need us to stay monsters so their stories make sense." Lena crossed her arms. "Then stop letting them write your story." He looked up, meeting her eyes. "And who should?" "You," she said simply. "But you'll need to decide what it's about." For a moment, neither spoke. Outside, the snow had begun to melt, dripping from rooftops, each drop echoing faintly like a clock counting down. That evening, as the volunteers left, Lena found Ethan sitting alone in the empty hall. The lights were dim, the city's hum filtering faintly through the walls. On the table in front of him lay an old photograph, his father in a worn jacket, standing in front of a half-built store. "My father ran a hardware shop," Ethan said quietly. "He used to tell me, build something people can use, not something they'll envy." I forgot that somewhere along the way. Lena sat across from him. "Then maybe it's time you remember." He smiled faintly, the kind of smile that carried both pain and peace. "I don't know how." She looked around the dim room, the shelves of food, the blankets, the laughter that still lingered in the air. "You already are," she said. "Every person who eats here, every kid who sleeps warm tonight, they're using something you helped build." Ethan's eyes softened. "You make it sound like redemption is something small." "It usually is," she replied. "One choice at a time." A long silence followed, the kind that doesn't need to be filled. Then Lena reached for the photograph, tracing the outline of his father's faded smile. "If he saw you now," she said, "I think he'd be proud." For the first time, Ethan didn't argue. He just let the tears come, quietly, like forgiveness washing dust off a forgotten heart. But neither of them noticed the shadow standing outside the frosted glass door, a reporter holding a camera, capturing that fragile human moment. Tomorrow, the world would see it, and everything would change again. The next morning, the world woke to a different kind of headline. The former millionaire CEO who finally learned to listen. The photo, Ethan and Lena sitting across from each other in the dim community hall, the photograph of his father between them, had spread across social media like wildfire. But this time, it wasn't ridicule. It was quiet awe. The image had no luxury, no filters, no polished speech. Just two people, one broken, one healing, sharing the kind of silence that tells more truth than any apology ever could. By noon, reporters gathered outside the center. Microphones, cameras, drones, all waiting for a soundbite. Ethan stood at the doorway, but Lena was the one who stepped forward. Her voice was calm, measured, unwavering. "You want a statement?" she said. "Here's one. People make mistakes, terrible ones. Some use power to hurt, some to heal. What matters is who they choose to be after the noise fades." The crowd hushed. Someone shouted, "So do you forgive him?" Lena glanced back at Ethan, who stood a few steps behind her, hands in his pockets, eyes lowered, not in shame, but in humility. She turned back to the cameras. "Forgiveness isn't about saying it was okay," she said. "It's about choosing not to carry hate. I forgave him the moment I saw him change." The words rippled across every platform. That single sentence, quiet, unwavering, ended the media's reign of mockery the same way her first one had ended Ethan's. Later, when the reporters were gone, Ethan found her in the back room cleaning up after the long day. "You didn't have to say that," he murmured. She didn't look up. "I didn't say it for you." He tilted his head, curious. "Then for who?" "For me," she said simply, "so I could finally let it go." For a long moment they stood there, the air between them thick with all the things they'd never said. Then Ethan stepped closer. "You know," he began softly, "for years I thought power was about making people listen. Turns out it's about learning when to stay quiet." Lena smiled faintly. "You're learning fast." "I had a good teacher." Outside, the sky was breaking open, streaks of gold cutting through the gray. The storm had passed, but the city still glistened with what it left behind. Proof that even after the worst kind of cold, something warm always returns. As they turned off the lights and stepped outside together, Ethan glanced at the street corner, where a group of homeless men were laughing over hot soup. He whispered, almost to himself, "Funny how everything I used to chase was right here all along." Lena looked at him and nodded. "You just had to lose your crown to find your soul." He smiled, a quiet, genuine smile. But behind that peace, a thought lingered, a final step he hadn't taken yet, a truth still waiting to be revealed. And tomorrow, he knew, he would. Spring came to New York like forgiveness, slow, unexpected, and alive. The city that once whispered Ethan Carter's downfall now barely remembered the scandal. But inside the community center, something remarkable had taken root. The warehouse project Lena had dreamed of was now real. Warm rooms, shared kitchens, laughter echoing through hallways that used to be silent. Families who had once slept under bridges now hung drawings on the walls. That morning, sunlight spilled across the center's entrance as Lena unlocked the door. She found Ethan waiting there with a folder under his arm and that same faint, humble smile she'd come to know. "You're early," she said, setting down her keys. "Couldn't sleep," he admitted. "I needed to bring you something." He handed her the folder. Inside were legal documents, neatly signed and sealed. She skimmed the pages and froze. It was the deed to the building. He'd transferred full ownership to her name. "Ethan," she whispered, eyes wide. "What is this?" He took a slow breath. "It's me letting go. For real this time. You built this place. You gave it life. I just want to make sure it never belongs to anyone who'd try to use it again." She looked at him, torn between disbelief and gratitude. "You don't have to do this." "I do," he said softly. "Because the night I met you, I thought I was a king. But you taught me that real power isn't about owning thrones. It's about earning peace." Her voice trembled. "You really think you've earned that?" He smiled sadly. "Not yet. But I'm learning how." For a long moment, they stood in the quiet sunlight, surrounded by the hum of morning life outside. Then Lena closed the folder, stepped closer and said, "You know, for someone who once thought money could buy everything, this might be the first thing you've ever truly given." He laughed softly. "That's the point." A breeze swept through the open doors, carrying the sound of children's laughter from inside the hall. Ethan glanced toward the sound, his eyes glimmering with something fragile. Peace, perhaps, or redemption finally settling where guilt used to live. "You're not staying?" Lena asked as he turned toward the exit. He paused. "I think you've got this place handled," he said. "Besides, there's another project I need to work on." "What kind of project?" He smiled gently. "Myself." She nodded, watching him step out into the street, the sunlight catching the edge of his coat. For the first time, he looked lighter. Not like a fallen king, but like a man who'd finally learned to walk without a crown. As he disappeared into the crowd, Lena opened the folder again, her fingers brushing over the ink that had once symbolized everything Ethan used to be. She whispered to herself, "Some reigns end not with war, but with mercy." Outside, the city kept moving, unaware that in one quiet corner, a waitress had changed the story of a man the world had already written off. And maybe, in some unspoken way, they had saved each other. The camera of life pulled back, past the center, past the skyline, past the glimmering city that now felt just a little more human, and in that soft silence, a single truth remained. Dignity, once spoken aloud, never dies. In the end, no newspaper headline or viral video could capture what really happened between them. The world saw a waitress who stood up to a millionaire. But what time revealed was something quieter. A man learning that forgiveness isn't weakness, and a woman proving that dignity is the highest form of strength. Ethan never wore his crown again, not because it was taken, but because he'd outgrown it. And Lena, she never stopped serving people, only now she wasn't carrying trays. She was carrying lives. Every person who walked through the doors of her community center found a piece of the truth she once spoke inside that golden restaurant. Respect has no price tag. It can't be bought, sold, or signed away. And if you look closely at that photo, the one the world shared 1,000 times, you can still see it in their eyes. The moment power surrendered to grace. The moment two strangers stopped being enemies and became mirrors of each other's humanity. Because sometimes one sentence doesn't end a reign, it begins a redemption. Thank you for staying with us until the end of this heart-touching story. Tell us in the comments which part moved you the most. Subscribe and turn on the bell to receive more stories that inspire and transform. Leave a like if you believe in the invisible strength of dignity and family. And above all, thank you for being part of this community that believes in stories with soul. And before you go, watch the story I leave here on the left. I'm sure it will also move you and make you reflect.